Matt, we're talking to Mercedes later. If you were 37 years old and had to play the game like he does, would you be able to?
No. No, he is a pro's pro, and I've said it many times. He's just a special person, a special player, and he does so much for not only our team but for our offense that I think that many people probably can't even appreciate just his ability to go both in the run and in the pass game to dominate whoever he's tasked to block. And then when given opportunities in the pass game, he's come through for us. So just a guy that we love around here, and he's a great leader for our football team.
The two tight ends.
I'm going to make you guys play paper, rock, scissors like Jamal.
Do it.
Let's go. Come on.
Mercedes and Tunyon went to Kittle and Greg Olson. These guys hold a tight end university after mini camp. Players getting together to talk about the position. That seems to be a growing trend in the league.
Yeah, I think that's great. Those guys getting together, kind of like sharing their secrets, and I think it kind of fosters that bond, that brotherhood that a lot of the position groups have across the league. And it's competitive, but that's one thing that's great about football is it brings people from all different walks of life together, and they can share in that camaraderie, and I think that's special.
Hey, Matt, with how important the two tight end looks are to your offense, I mean, that duo of him and Tunyon, how have you seen those two grow together, in the offense, and also how important has that been, over the last 2 years?
Yeah, I think just, two really good players, and it's so cool when I'm, watching Mercedes coaching Bobby up on certain things, and, Bobby's really, he's grown as much as anybody's in our time here, just as just a complete player. And I think there's more out there for him. So I'm excited for the season that is ahead of us.
Now, what impressed you the most about Chris Barnes last year, and where do you think he can, take his game another step this second season?
Well, just as an undrafted guy coming in and earning that position, he did it the hard way, because a lot of times you're not given as many opportunities initially, and he just continued to battle. I think he's a very instinctive player, and that really helped us. And he made some big time plays when given the opportunity. And I think he did a really nice job throughout the entire offseason, taking care of his body and coming in great shape. And I know he's always working hard at understanding all the details behind our scheme. And again, another young player that I'm really excited about.
Matt, was there a time early this offseason when you thought that maybe Preston wouldn't be back? And what does that do for your defense, obviously, with him back in the fold?
Yeah, sometimes you never know how certain things go in regards to just the struggles that everybody around the league had this year with the cap going down and whatnot. But I think, he's a bona fide pass rusher, and he is versatile too, because he does a lot of things in coverage for us as well. So, we're going to continue to push him to be his best, because when he's going, he is just somebody you better account for from an offensive perspective.
How do you get him back on track from the 2019 form instead of, obviously the struggles he had last year?
Yeah, I think he understands. He knows what's in front of him, and he's a pro, and he's been doing this a long time. So I think, he's put the work in, and now he's got to go out there and just do it.
How did week one go, Matt, as far as like the mental stuff? I know the ball wasn't on the ground a whole lot. There's no referees out there, so I'm not sure how it was penalty-wise, but how did you think kind of the mental side of things went?
Yeah, I thought our guys did a nice job. I know we had a couple, times where the ball was on the ground in that first practice, but for the most part, our guys have done a really nice job taking care of the football. I think these guys are learning to practice against one another. It's competitive, yet they take care of one another too. So, it's a double-edged sword, because from an offensive perspective, you don't want to see the turnovers, but from a defensive perspective, you want to see us going hammer, and we call it hammer, rake, punch, at the football. You like guys making plays, you know, on the ball in the air. And so, but I think our guys are learning and getting better at that on the defensive side of the football.
Matt,
Will
to
you have
that end-
officials this week, just with family night coming up?
Yeah, we'll have officials at family night.
Matt, to that end, you go back to your first camp here in Green Bay, adding the music, the vibe was very up, but there were a lot of false starts, there were a lot of turnovers. Do you think that's part of the kind of the maturation of your program? Because now the vibe is great, guys are dancing, and
Yeah.
you don't see a lot of those mental mistakes that you saw here.
Yeah, I think anytime, you know, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, you're talking about year 3 of the same terminology. And then defensively, obviously, there was a change there, but a lot of the terminology has had some carryover. There's a little bit of carryover within the system, but there's a lot of familiarity with our coaches for the most part that have been here for a long time. So, you know, I think these guys take it to heart in terms of what we want to be about, the identity that we want to have as a football team, and then they get their mind right for practice. And it's not like we're out there for a long time, but when we are out there, we expect to stay locked in, to stay focused, and to be sharp when we're out there.
Now, will you be kind of addressing team periods to include more situationals, like 2-minute this week, or you know, hurry up if there is going to be any of that?
Yeah, so today, actually, we're going to have a 2-minute at the end of practice, and as well as a backed up period. So, yeah, we're going to start incorporating a little bit more of that as we move forward.
Matt, last week you said that you'd have to ask someone for specific vaccination numbers. Do you have any, or has any progress been made since last week?
Yeah, I mean, I have everything that, you know, right now, we've got 11 guys that aren't. So, you know, all we're going to do is continue to tell them what the protocols are and try to educate guys as best we can and give them the information, and then they got to make the decision for themselves.
For Jair, obviously he picked up his 5th-year option. Is that long-term contract, is that something you ever talk about with him, or is that something that will come after the season, or do you have any timeline on kind of getting a discussion going on that?
Yeah, that's nothing that I ever get involved with our players. That's one of the beauties of certainly you want guys to be rewarded, but that's just we've got other people in place for that. That's more of a conversation with Goody and Russ Ball.
Hey, Matt, so when you start out and you aren't in pads, are you still going through your regular installs like you normally would? And is there any difference? Do you have to come back because maybe you didn't do it in pads and you want to see it a little again, or is everything just the same?
No, yeah, so the way we did it this past week was we put 4 installs in. And today is more of, I would say, more of a review of the first 4 installs, but we did add the 2 minutes. So we'll continue on. We'll try to get everything in before at least the majority of our material in prior to family night. But, you know, there's always additions and tweaks as we go along.
Now, what was your takeaway last year with playing without fans in the stands in terms of competitive advantage? And do you think it changed any outcomes, and how do you think it'll be different this year?
Well, I think it certainly was advantageous from an offensive perspective when you're on the road. You know, usually week 1 it was eerie going out there versus the Vikings, and you're used to that stadium being loud and rocking, and then it was weird coming home, you know, versus Detroit, when you're used to walking out into your own stadium and get all that fan support behind you. And I do think there was an adjustment there that took some time for our players. As much as you want to tell them, hey, you got to bring your own energy, it did. They feed off that. They feed off the fans, and that's why I think it's so important that when we pack this place, that our fans are going crazy and supporting us, and because our guys, you know, they definitely feed off it, and I think their play reflects that. You can just see it. The intensity picks up. I thought towards the end of the year, you know, going into the playoffs and whatnot, when there were just, you know, a handful of fans, you could feel the difference in the energy.
Did it change anything that you think about in terms of home field advantage or road disadvantage that you didn't already wasn't already obvious to you prior to last year?
No, not really. Just like I said, when you're on the road, and especially in our case, when you have a guy that is the master at the cadence, that was a big advantage for us from an offensive perspective.
Matt, did you have a conversation with Simon about the decision to ultimately put him on reserve, retire?
Yeah, absolutely, I did, and you know, I respect Simon at the highest level. You know, and I appreciate all the work he put in, and he worked really hard, obviously, coming back from an injury, and, you know, I thought he was doing a lot of good things, but, you know, he had to make a decision that was in the best interest for himself and his family.
Matt, can you talk about, you had so much versatility in that offensive line room, what it's like to have a guy like Billy Turner and now Dennis who can play on both sides?
Yeah, it's huge because it allows us to, again, get the best five, the best combination of guys out there on a weekly basis. You know, there was a lot more adversity, I would say, in that room a year ago than 2 seasons ago. So you're always looking for that continuity of the 5 bigs up front. But when you have a guy that can really play 4 of the 5 positions, and then you got to get another guy like Elton that can play all 5. It just frees you up to making sure that you get your best 5 out there.
I'm glad you mentioned Elton. Are you surprised at all? I mean, I realize there's no contact, so to speak, but I mean, no one's getting past him on passing plays.
Yeah, he's a pretty good player.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, seriously, I'm aware that you've been around him for a bit, but I mean, left tackle is that premium position, and doesn't seem phased a bit out there.
He's not, and you know, he's just an exceptional player. I mean, there's not much he can't do. We could probably line him up at tight end. Maybe we will. I don't know. But no, he's a phenomenal football player. I think, you know, Adam Stenovich and Luke Buckus do such a great job with that entire room. But ultimately, those guys got to take it upon themselves, and he certainly does. And just what a reliable football player.